Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a world where elegance meets edge and sophistication intertwines with unfiltered passion. This is the Distinguished Gentleman Podcast, and if you can't handle the truth, too fucking bad. Welcome to the Distinguished Gentleman Podcast. We're getting everything together.
Excellent.
As always, my co-host,
Yes.
Seven. I am the Distinguished Gentleman.
Thank you, dear sir. Thank you for having me along on this wondrous ride.
Thank you. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a lot of talking. We're going to be doing a lot of conversations in regards to today's society, people, what the hell is wrong with people, what's going on today in society, the good and bad, what makes a distinguished gentleman, what makes a distinguished woman, what is a woman, all those type of things. It's going to be pretty good.
Yes,
We're going to have a good
if we
time.
can get them to meet each other, that would be great in today's society.
That would be good. That's part of what we want to do is we want to get people together. I know you and I have talked extensively, and so have everybody else here in the studio. We've talked about all different kinds of things of really helping people and getting people together and trying to figure out what has happened to society and how do we correct that and what do we do? I have my opinions. You have yours. Everybody else has theirs. Apparently, Crocs seems to be an opinion with our engineer, Richard, over there, who has apparently every pair of Crocs known to man.
Yes, you'll have to weigh in the comments about your personal take on Crocs.
I've got my opinions. And I don't even know why we're talking about Crocs, but since it's the subject at hand right now, being part of the Distinguished Gentleman, yeah, let's talk about Crocs. Should we talk about Crocs for a second?
I'm up for it. Go ahead.
Nobody should ever own a pair of Crocs. Well, let me rephrase that. No man should own a pair of Crocs. I when I go to the store and I see guys, I don't, we've talked about this before. You and I have talked about this as well, that there's something about a man, something that makes a man. Okay. And when I see them in public, I say to myself, well, first of all, you can tell, one, they're not married. If they are, you can tell they're a little unhappy. They're not satisfied with their life. And part of it is because they don't take on the role of a man. They don't take on that responsibility of a man. What does that mean to be responsible for a man? Let me tell you what it means to be responsible as a man. You have to take that masculine role on. Crocs, as an example, are not part of that. That is not, there's nothing masculine. There is nothing that dries up a woman quicker than my opinion, and you correct me if I'm wrong. But if you are in a store and you're walking, let's take you as an example. You're in a store. You are a single woman, attractive. You put time and effort into your hair, the way you look, your makeup, your dress, your outfit. You want to be feminine. When you see a man who is, let's say, disheveled, just not put together, okay? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I always think how he does one thing, he probably does all things.
Great point. Good point. Amazing. Absolutely. You're not wrong.
Yes, I know there are outliers, and let's just say that, there are the chefs of the world who do wear their Crocs, but for the most part, when I see someone disheveled, not wearing, nice shoes, I am concerned,
What concerns you? When you say you're concerned, what
I
concerns
just
you?
feel like they would not be a good spouse or partner or father, perhaps. But again, outliers do exist.
So you're saying because of a certain shoe or a certain look they have, you're instantly turned off.
Yes, they say you make your first impression within moments. So I think there's something
You don't get
to
a
be said
second
for
chance
that.
to make a first
exactly,
impression. Right.
Exactly. That people do judge a book by the cover for the most part. So.
I 100% agree. There's no question about it. There's absolutely no question about it. When I see, and even from a male point of view, when I go out, I'm married, and I have, I don't have any desire to impress anyone. However, as a distinguished gentleman, I feel it's very important that the look is part of what you're going for.
Right.
If you need to be able to hold yourself in that masculine role, you need to be able to say, I've got this. I need to project that, guess what? I'm not only here to protect the woman I'm with, but I'm here to protect the underdog. I'm here to I'm here to provide a sense of security. That's the masculine role. You can't do that in Crocs. There are no, I don't care if they're camo hunting Crocs. There is no possible way that a man, a guy, yes, a boy, sure. You're 35 years old sitting at home playing video games. Yeah, you're a Croc boy, okay? You're not a man. Men take responsibility. A lot of times I see these guys and I say to myself, if something happened right now, how would you defend yourself? I mean, how would you actually fight, let's say?
Yes.
How would you stand up for your girlfriend, your wife, in a pair of Crocs? First of all, no self-respecting man would be able to look at you and fear you in any way whatsoever if you've got your Crocs on and your sweatpants.
Can you even run in a Croc? I've never had a Croc on myself, so...
I'm sure there's...
What are your capabilities in a Croc?
I don't want to offend anybody in Tennessee or Alabama, but let me tell you something. If that's the going shoe, yeah, you're not in the same league as a real man, okay? And that's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But, talking about... when you're talking about running and defending, first of all, let's talk about a fight, okay? How many videos do we need to see where people are online and they get into a fight, they get into an altercation, and they've got on a slide or a slipper or something, and it comes off in the middle of the fight, and they have no stability, they have no control, they got nothing, and they get their ass whooped. Why? Because they're not thinking when they leave the house, let alone the fact of what they look like. Just the actual fact of, okay, should something happen, I need to defend myself, I need to defend my family, my children, whatever. How are you going to do that in a slipper?
I know. Even as a woman, I think when I go out of the house to a concert or something, I think a little longer about the shoes I wear, just in case there's a melee or something.
Well, I think for women, it's a little bit different, personally. I think there needs to be a real feminine side to it, right?
Yes.
I am not a big believer of a flat or a sandal great. They're comfortable. I get it, okay? And they go with certain things. And some women can't wear heels and so on, those type of things. However, on the female side, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is not to protect. I get that today, a lot of women need to be the boss bitch. They need to be hard. They need to be, make the money, and they don't have the man, so say. That's going to protect them. How many times do we hear, that we talk to women and they say the same thing over and over again? I've never been with a man. I've slept with a lot of guys. I mean, I've been in bed with tons and tons of guys, but I've never had a man, an actual man, where they feel secure. Last thing they're going to want is, hey, baby, what's that noise? Oh, go check it out, sweetie. I'm going to stay here. That's not what a man does, right? So when you defend yourself and when you are involved in that type of situation, that's not the woman's responsibility. So for a woman to say, I need to wear the right thing just in case something happens, that may be a product of your environment. I think that may be part of, where you are in your life. You currently, you have a very secure man.
Yes.
You have a man who is strong, can defend you, and you get to have that feminine side to you.
Yes, and there is not a single pair of Crocs in the closet.
So yeah, I think a lot of this has been brewing, and the reason for this podcast is because a lot of this has just come to the forefront in the last couple of years. For myself personally, I'm going to offend people, which is absolutely spectacular. I want to offend you. Gosh, I want to offend you so bad. I want you so pissed, because you should be. There's a lot of things going on in today's society that just drive me bananas, drive me crazy.
So you're feeling a little bit of tough love here. Like
Absolutely
put it
tough
out there
love.
for the people.
This whole society has become pansies, become sissies, and you want to be one, that's fine. But let me tell you something. That doesn't bode well for our society at all whatsoever.
True.
Men are a dying breed. Men, not boys, not guys. Men are a dying breed. We have been emasculated. We have been belittled. We have been stepped on, and a lot of it is because of I believe because of feminism. I think the feminist movement is a complete crock of shit. I think that they have their good points, but it has transformed in the last 10 years into something that has just ruined our society. Absolutely ruined. Men are no longer men. Women think that they're men. Men think that they're women. And you know, in today's society, without what a lot of people don't realize, I believe a lot of people don't realize is that without men, this whole thing goes to shit. This whole thing, the roads you have, the phones that you have, the water that you drink, the electricity that runs it, the infrastructure is run by men. Okay. Now, I'm not saying women can't do these things. What I'm saying is, I don't know of a society where women run the infrastructure. It's never happened in this world. In fact, I defy you to find me a building, one building on this planet or any other planet that strictly women built. It doesn't exist. And the reason is because we all have our own roles. Men have a role, women have a role. We have our responsibilities. And it drives me nuts that so many people today believe that we're equal. We're not.
Did you hear about that New York airport? They're going to renovate that, and they've gone for all female and minority contracts.
Well, that should be a pretty good disaster.
It's going to be interesting to watch how
I think
that plays out.
should be a complete... I didn't hear that. Where is this?
It's New York, I believe, and the contracts that all went down were for women or minorities. You know.
So that includes minority men.
Yes, I believe so.
Well, okay, so that's, you know, women love the jobs, and I find this to be very true. The hard jobs, women don't want. They don't want the bricklayer. They don't want the electrician. They don't want the HVAC guy. They don't want the plumber. They don't want the concrete guy. What they want is they want the office work. They want the nurse. They want the soft job, and it's understandable. It's very understandable because women are soft in nature. It's natural for a woman to be sweet and caring and soft and providing. If there's going to be a building or a structure that's going to be completely built by women, granted minorities, I don't really care. It doesn't matter as long as you do a great job. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what part of the world you come from. If you do your job good, great. More power to you.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that it's forcing the issue, you know, that they are putting these mandatory things in place in such a way. I'm a firm believer in the hierarchy of knowing what you're doing in life and doing it well. And I personally don't want my surgeons to be lesser than. I don't want my builders to be lesser than.
Nobody
does. I
want
top rung.
And people don't think about that until it's, I want to say almost it's too late. You know, I watched a show with Jordan Peterson. If you know Jordan Peterson, fantastic guy. Love him. Shout out to you, Jordan. The fact is that the airline industry is talking about hiring based on diversification. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but if there's 250 people on a plane, I don't really care if you're black. I don't care if you're white, Hispanic, female. I could care less. What I care about are your qualifications to fly that plane.
For sure.
What I care about is whether or not you can handle the situation. You're the best pilot in this role, right? That's what I care about.
Yes.
The last thing I want is to get on a plane and have my pilot be the 15th best pilot for this job, but got the job because of he's a minority or because female, whatever, or transgender, whatever it might be. Not that I care about any of that. As long as you can do the job and you're the best for the job, great. You don't want to build a house and I'm only going to hire female bricklayers when the best bricklayer is across the street from you and has been doing it for 50 years, 3 generations, let's call it, 100 years worth. I want that bricklayer to build my house.
There's something to be said for the hierarchy of competency. Yeah.
Hierarchy works everywhere. You know, in Sweden, they are very diversified. And right now they're having nothing but problems. The economy is not doing well. You know, they have so many problems right now in Sweden. We're starting to go that route. We're going that route where we have to make everybody feel good. And this podcast is not about making people feel good. This podcast is about truth.
Yes.
If you can't handle the truth, guess what? I'm going to offend you, and I don't give a shit. I could care less. I could care less. But no one is going to change my opinion about truth, because truth trumps your feelings. It trumps all your little emotions. None of that matters.
Yes.
Truth prevails over everything. That's just my opinion. If you don't like it, piss off.
That must have been so interesting in the world of dating when you were seeking a spouse. Did you find a lot of potential women couldn't accept your level of truth?
So there's two types of women. So here's what I found. There's two types of women. There are the women that are the badass bitches. They're the boss bitches. They've got everything on lockdown, right? They don't need a man. They got their job. Those are the loneliest people on the planet. They'll never tell you that they're lonely, but the signs of them being lonely is amazing. And then there are the soft women, the feminine women, the ones that understand what it means to be a woman, okay? And what I found very interesting is that the boss bitches, they're the complainers. They love to complain. Oh, God, they love to bitch and moan about everything, right? It's everybody else's fault. They never take responsibility for it. And they're so tough that, and rightfully so, society has made them that way. They've never run into a good guy. They've never run into a masculine man who's just going to be like, listen, I don't need to hear your shit. I don't want your opinion, okay? We're going to do things my way, and if you don't like that, then you can move on. I don't need you in my life. But a lot of men today don't have that. They don't have that. They don't have that fortitude. They just lack, right? And part of that is because they've never been taught how to be a man. They either didn't have a father figure or a masculine father figure,
Right.
as they grew up. They were raised by a single parent, a mom, many times. Many times I've run into guys that are just, they're good guys, but they're not masculine. And nobody's ever told them, get your shit together.
Right. And how do you feel about the boys being taken out of the Boy Scouts? That are the presentation of that.
Another mark of society going into shit, right? There's the Girl Scouts and there's the Boy Scouts. Girl Scouts go to the Girl Scouts. Boy Scouts go to the Boy Scouts. Boys learn what it means to be a boy, how to be responsible, how to be a man, what to do as a man. That's the starting point. Girl Scouts, same thing. The Girl Scouts, they learn how to be girls. They learn how to be feminine. They're taught all these. Now, yes, you can teach the girls how to be boys and you can teach the boys how to be girls, but that doesn't really work in society. It really doesn't, because if your man is too feminine or your female is too masculine, now you've got the problem with compatibility.
Yeah,
You really have a problem with
balance of life.
natural
is
balance,
thrown off.
exactly.
Yes.
If you don't have that natural balance of where the man is the man and the woman is the woman, guess what? You're doomed. You're going to fail. And that's just fact. Every bit of research out there, all the statistics show that in a relationship, if the woman takes on the masculine role, there's a very large percentage of divorce. Huge percentage of divorce. What they don't a lot of times do is they don't actually ask the man, because you hear the happy wife, happy life, right?
Yes.
We are raised to be resilient. The world doesn't give us shit. Women are very different. You guys get a lot of stuff for free. And I don't mean financially for free. I mean, you get a lot of stuff handed to you. How many times have you gone into a bar and never bought a drink?
Yes, but sometimes it's not right to accept those free drinks.
Well, okay, all right.
I hear what you're saying.
We are
Yes.
talking about a select few women. Now, you are a little bit different, and that's why you're the co-host, right? You are different because you understand those rules. You understand the feminine side to it. But how many girls, women out there today go to a bar specifically so that they don't have to pay for drinks?
Yes, I think some women actually date for the free meals.
Absolutely,
Yes.
they do. There's no question about it, and they take advantage of the situation. How many times does a woman get dressed specifically, and they love to say, "Oh, I dress up for myself." They don't dress up for themselves. Then stay home. Dress up and stay home. but they dress up in such a manner that attracts men. And usually it's the simpletons. Usually it's the easy men that allow that to happen. Because a good man doesn't fall for that shit. We don't fall for that shit, right? I don't care how good you are. I don't care how perfect your tits are. I don't give a shit how tight your ass is. None of that matters to a man. It's nice to have, but means nothing.
Do you really think it doesn't matter to all men, though?
I didn't say all men.
Yes.
What I said was to most men, high caliber, high value men. A high value man has his choice of tight ass all day long. He can walk down the street and look at a half a dozen women and go, nope, 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 nope.
For a lot of men, there's women they play with, and then there's women they marry.
Well, there's a big difference there.
Yes.
So, and that's where the value of a woman comes in. Okay. So the value of a woman is not determined really by, from a man's point of view, the value of a woman is not determined with how she looks. Hot bitches are everywhere. They're everywhere. They're lined the streets with them. Okay. What a man wants, a high value man, he wants a woman that when he comes home at night, she respects him.
Right.
She cares about his opinion. She cares about how he's feeling. She wants to bring peace into his life. That's what a high-value man wants. That's what a man with character wants.
Yes.
That's not a boy. That's not a guy. And age has nothing to do with it. I don't care how old you are. You could be 25. You could be 50. Your level of maturity and self-worth is determined through your life. And you can change those things. But a lot of these guys today, when you say, do all these guys care about how a woman... Well, naturally, we're visual, okay? Women are emotional, men are visual. We're factual. You guys work on your feelings and your emotions. So what drives us initially, obviously, is, okay, is she good looking? Great. She's good looking. Well, so is she, so is she, so is she, so is she. From a man's point of view, would I smash her? Yep. You? Yep. You go down the line. Absolutely. We don't control sex. We control access to relationships. Women, you guys control access to sex. You tell us who you're going to fuck. We don't control that. We control the relationship. So we say, I want you as a permanent. I want to get serious with you. I want you for long term. I'm going to lock you down. How many women out there, how many women are just stunners? They're absolute 10s, perfect, 5'8", 5'9", 120 pounds, perfect body, beautiful smile, flowing hair, just, magazines, right? Most men, they would die to be with that woman. Die to be with
I know, and now they have them at their fingertips all day long on the apps, the dating apps.
It's unrealistic. It's unrealistic, okay? But they want them, but they don't want to marry them. Because what a man marries is inside. It's not outside. Yeah, that's a bonus, okay? But from a point of view of a distinguished gentleman, I would say that I would take a 5 that treats me like a 10 over a 10 that treats me like a 5 all day long. And for those of you women out there who think you're 10s when you're actually 5s, I love when women come into the office and they say, "Oh, I'm average." Really? What are you? What exactly? Rate yourself 1 to 10. Oh, I'm like an 8 or a 9. I'm average. An 8 or 9 is not average. 5 is average. 8 or 9 is extremely attractive.
Yes.
Well, if you don't have what it takes inside, your outside means nothing.
Exactly.
It's just, every guy down the street wants to screw you. Every single one of them. No question about it. You will never be shy of guys that give you attention. You will never be shy of guys that want to take you out on dates. I get messages in my DMs all the time, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit about none of that means anything. Men have learned through the years, through the ages, on what to do to get sex from women. What I find is women have not really learned, some of them have, some of you are really, really good, have learned what does a man want to get married. And that's the difference. Any one of these women here in the studio can go into any restaurant. I tell this story all the time. You can walk into any restaurant And you can grab the microphone for the restaurant and say, I would like to screw someone today, right now. And you would have half the hands raised, half women, half men, and the dishwasher would run out from the kitchen ready.
This is true.
And you would have your pick of the litter. You'd have your pick of the litter. Now, if a man did that, he'd get picked up and thrown out and his ass kicked in the parking lot. And that's just truth. That's just fact. So that just proves the point that women have access and control sex. Men control relationships. We decide. So I just think that society has kind of gone into the shitter with that. And that's really what we need. That's really what we need to do. We really need to educate the men out there. What is your value as a man? What is your value as a woman? What do you bring to the table? You know, you have to look at yourself and say, what do I bring to the table? If you don't bring anything, then you're not what you think you are.
Right. And different age groups require different qualities for what they need in a marriage.
Well, I think, you know, if you're going to start off young, getting married, that's great. But I'm hoping that your parents have taught you well, because parents teach their young boys differently than they teach their girls, right? I mean, I'm assuming how you were raised with values and respect.
Traditional home.
Traditional home, right? Yes. You want to be a trad wife, or do you not want to be a trad wife? You know, this traditional wife is kind of a joke for a lot of these younger people out there today. I mean, I would say if you're under 30, you probably don't even know what a trad wife is, okay? And you really have to look at that and say, okay, well, what do I bring to the table as a woman? What do I bring to the table? What does, do I bring just this? Do I bring, my hair and my nails, or do you bring something that a man wants? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he likes to look at you, but do you bring something that he wants? And same thing for a man. These guys, what do you bring? Well, I'm a dude, I'm a guy. That doesn't mean shit. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Are you a hard worker? Do you provide for your family? Do you strive every day to make more money to provide for your future family? Plain and simple. Can you handle yourself in a situation? You don't have to be the world's greatest fighter. You don't even have to be tough. But do you have courage to stand up for what's right and what's wrong? How many videos have I seen? How many times has someone sent me something where the man literally runs away? I mean, literally runs away. They're walking down the street hand in hand. Something happens, a noise goes off, a bang goes off, and boom, and he runs into the corner, and she's standing there on the street going, what the hell just happened? That tells you everything about a guy, not a man. A man's going to stand there and defend.
I know, and never in the course of our society did I ever think we'd be living in a time where we needed the man to protect us more.
Go back 40 years, okay? I have some years on me. Go back 40 years and tell me if we had the type of protests that we have today. If we had the type of men that we had today. There will always be two sides to that. There will always be the soft, a little bit more feminine. There will always be the more caring and sweet and wonderful guy. And there will always be the woman that needs to run that, okay? And that's fine. And if that works for some people, that's great. In general, statistics show that does not work at all whatsoever. You have to have a leader. Women aren't designed to lead. People are going to be pissed off. It's just facts. They're not designed to lead. Can they? Yes, they can. Are they forced into that? Sure they are. But are they designed for that genetically from the past? No, they're not. You go back to the 40s, to the 50s, there was no such thing as a soft guy. It just didn't exist. And the reason is because you didn't survive.
Right.
You didn't make it. You got your ass kicked, your ass handed to you, society beat the shit out of you, you were broke, and it just didn't work. Today, everything is just handed to people. You're just granted everything. You're just given everything. You don't work, don't worry about it. We'll give you money. You don't have to worry about being masculine. The woman can handle it. I want equality. Great. But what it has turned men into is very soft. Very, the only word I can use is soft.
Yeah, and the rules have really changed. I find a lot of men just in a societal way, don't know how to respond to women. Do we open the door? Do we not open the door? Just everything.
Because you get your ass handed to you, whether it's legally, whether it's verbally right there on the street. I mean, no man wants that.
Right.
But a man, a strong man who knows his value, he doesn't give a shit.
He's going to open it up anyway.
He's going to open it up, and he doesn't give a fuck if you like it or not.
Right.
And if you don't like it, move on. He's going to find a woman who is going to be appreciative of that.
Right.
He's going to find a woman who respects that and understands, you know what? I want that in my life. I want to feel like a woman.
Yes.
I have so many women that either call or they talk to me and they say, you know, I would just love to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I have been with guys all my life where I've had to provide or I've had to protect or I've been, you know, I was the one making all the decisions and it's so sad because they don't know what it's like to be with a man. A guy who says, I got this, baby. Yeah. I've made the plans. Don't worry about it. And a lot of that comes from training. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to teach these guys and women how to be feminine. We're going to teach these guys how to be masculine. If you don't like it, guess what? You can continue being a simp and do whatever you want to do. But for those of you that are saying, look, I really want a good woman, or a woman who says, I really want a good man. I want a man. Okay, well, what does that mean? Do you even know what that means? And if you were given one, how long do you think you'd be able to keep him?
Right.
That's a huge thing. I mean, from a woman's point of view, what do you guys want? I mean, I know what you want.
Women want security and respect as well, just like a man does, and create a life together, just listening to each other's dreams and making those things happen.
So when you say you want respect, what kind of respect do you want?
Just the
Define
man,
that respect to me, because
Yes.
respect for a man and respect for a woman are two
Yes.
totally different things.
The man just needs to respect the aspects of life, whether a woman is a mother, a wife, the feminine qualities she brings to the table, that it has real value. You want to be mutually appreciated in that relationship more than anything, I would say.
Okay. How do you feel about work? What do you think about work?
Well, I feel saddened that as a society we moved away where the mothers didn't get to stay home and be a mother just for pure economic reasons. Not everybody who would love to be a mom at home, they don't get to because of the economy. I think that's very sad. But I think it should be a woman's choice, but there's plenty of women, and we're almost ostracized, that if we want to stay home and take care of the man and be the support system, that it's almost shunned upon.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah. It's absolutely horrible. I can't believe that there are women out there that protest being feminine and staying home and being a mother. They hate it. They can't stand it.
I know. And I think it's been a huge societal problem, just our children, how the children have changed by not having the traditional upbringing.
They are the biggest. What's the word I'm looking for? They are the biggest victim. That's the perfect word. They are the biggest victim of the society changing that way.
Right.
They don't get the two parents. They don't get the masculine side. They don't get the feminine side.
Yes.
Especially when parents divorce. And they divorce sometimes they divorce for some of the dumbest reasons. Jesus Christ. I hear some of these things sometimes where we just didn't get along anymore. Tell that to your grandmother. Tell that to your grandfather.
Right.
You know, the traditional family has fallen apart because everyone thinks the grass is greener on the other side. Everyone thinks they can do better. And, you know, you may have gotten married when you were 25. Well, guess what? You're 35, 40 now. You've been used up a little bit. You've got an extra 40 pounds on you. Your value is not anywhere near what it used to be, both men and women, right? And they are the victims. The children are the victims.
Yes.
I think the latest statistic I read was that there's a 65% higher risk for drug use in single-family children.
It wouldn't surprise me.
65%. So think about this. You have a kid, and you guys are doing great. Everything's fine. The kid's 5 years old, 7 years old, whatever, and you and your husband get divorced for whatever the stupid reason is, which is usually bullshit to begin with, but you get divorced. that child, whether he lives with the father or whether he lives with the mother, either way he loses. He loses either way. Forget the drug use, but either way he loses. If he gets raised by the mother, he isn't taught how to be a man. He's raised by a woman. He's very soft. While he can be a little bit masculine, he will never get that real masculine role. He's never taught how to be a man. You don't just wake up one day and just go, I'm going to be a man. I've got this. I understand what responsibility means. And he misses out on that. If he's raised by the father, he's usually pretty hard and cold and tough and very not easy to get along with. Because guess what? He wasn't raised with that soft side. He wasn't raised with that tender, loving side, right? That coddling side. So he misses out either way,
right.
Let alone the 65% drug use. So you get divorced, you've got your son, great kid at the age of 5 or 6, and suddenly all of a sudden at 16, 14 nowadays, right? He's out banging chicks, he's doing drugs, he's doing all kinds of stuff because he didn't have one or the other role together.
Yes,
that's horrible.
That balance is just so important.
It's huge, and people don't understand that. The facts don't lie. That's all that there is to it. Facts don't lie. So yeah, I agree. I think you're right.
But there's hope now. I mean, I feel like people are starting to go back to church. They're starting to want something higher and better for themselves. So, we'll never fully get that genie back in the bottle, but I certainly hope we take a march in the right direction, onward and upward.
Well, I think church is I think it's an important part in today's society, just for the fact of trying to, I don't care what religion it is. I mean, let me rephrase that. There are some religions out there that do promote violence.
Yes.
There are some religions out there that promote hatred. And it just is what it is, right? But in general, a religious belief, whatever the religious belief is, and whatever the God is that you believe in, does lead you to a consciousness and an awareness of who you are and the balance between right and wrong. That's another thing that isn't taught today. The right and wrong.
Yes.
You can, the laws of man are one thing. My belief, highly, the laws of man are one thing. But the moral compass of a person says everything. Okay, many people break laws every day. I mean, there's the greatest people in the world, and they break the law every day. I mean, the speed limit's 45. You do 46, guess what? You broke the law. 1 mile is breaking the law, plain and simple. You can say whatever you want. Jaywalking, you went through a red light. It doesn't really matter. Those are just traffic. But society in general, we break laws of man. When you start swaying into the moral compass of heading south, that's where we start running into problems. You start, and religion gives you that basis, just the foundation. You don't have to believe in every single thing, but the foundation. We've removed church from our schools. We've removed the Pledge of Allegiance from our schools. I just read that Tennessee, shout out to you, Tennessee. Tennessee just instilled the 10 Commandments in schools. They just said they made it mandatory to put the 10 Commandments in schools. Now that's huge.
It is huge.
Because that right there is the foundation of moral character. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Just those two alone would change just those two alone.
Right.
Forget the adultery, you're going to be a little bit older. But thou shalt not kill. If we actually believed in that and had the fear of God, guess what? You're probably not going to do it, and you're going to think twice about it. Thou shalt not steal. How much crime does our society have today? I mean, I see endless videos of 5, 6 kids running into a store, grabbing everything they possibly can.
Yes.
And running out the door. And the most amazing part is security's just standing there.
I know. I
They
just
stand there.
experienced that myself.
I can't can believe it.
Yes.
They just stand there.
Yes.
Because they have to. Because they'll get in trouble.
Right.
Because of our laws. The moral compass. The moral compass of, they're stealing it to feed their family. That's not the moral compass. That's an excuse. People love excuses. Oh my God. I'm not getting into the political side of it, but there are people in our government that just love excuses. Oh my God, the excuses are just baffling to me sometimes. It's okay. I heard, it's hurricane season. Our president just said this one, and I'm not going to get political, but our president just said this one. It's hurricane season. Most important thing in hurricane season is to be vaccinated. Go get vaccinated right now, because nothing is more difficult than when you aren't vaccinated during hurricane season. Seriously? It doesn't even make sense.
Yes. I
That's an
can't
agenda.
even get through the grocery store without hearing a vaccination ad now.
It's unbelievable. And there's so much evidence now of the vaccines causing so much problems, and fiber in the veins and all kinds of different stuff. And we didn't know that. And now Fauci's on trial and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But the point is, it's the moral compass.
Yes.
It's the moral compass. If you had the foundation from whatever religion it is, guess what? You're probably going to wind up a better person. So if you're a single parent, get your kids some basis of belief, of religious belief. I don't care what it is, but get out there. Start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. Start with the moral compass. The moral compass will guide people. Once you plant that seed will grow.
Yes, it's the North Star for your whole life.
Absolutely, absolutely. How many of us here, Richard included, how many of us here have been at points in our life where we say, oh shit, that's not good.
Oh.
I can't do that. That's your moral compass.
Yes.
But a lot of people don't have those influences in their life where they say, you know what, you shouldn't do that. They have the opposite. Go ahead, do it. The moral compass starts with you. The moral compass starts with the person that says, you know what, in my soul that just sucks. I can't do that. That's not good. I can't steal that shit. I shouldn't beat the shit out of this person because they just offended me. Simple things. You can't do that. You can, and there are consequences, and that's another show we'll talk about some other day. Consequences. But you got to start with a moral compass. It's my belief. I believe. And being a distinguished gentleman, part of that, being a woman, starts with your moral compass.
Yes.
What attracts men to women is their moral compass.
How were you raised? What was your childhood like?
Childhood was rough. It was not easy. I will say that. Some would say privileged. Did we have a little bit of money? We had a little bit of money. I mean, we were middle class.
Yeah. You're from the Midwest, right?
I'm from the Midwest. Yeah, I was born and raised in Chicago. Lived there basically all my life. Moved out to the suburbs when I was, in my teens. But I mean, it was my father was an immigrant from Germany. My mother as well. Very hardworking, which is a quality that I feel is another, super important quality. If you don't know how to work, if you can't work, if you don't understand what breaking your back to earn a dollar means, you're worthless.
Right.
You're worthless.
When you were a child, did you have a job such as a paper boy, or when did the whole commerce start for you?
So my father was, he worked in a hospital.
Okay.
And he worked long hours. My mother was a hairdresser. She worked long hours. And from a very, very early age, as early as I could comprehend, it was, you got to work. You want something, you got to earn it. Plain and simple. Nobody's going to give it to you. Life isn't fair. Work. And I think part of that came from, that European flavor, that European mindset of, look, it's just life. You're going to work, right? So from an early age, my father made me work, right? He lived in an apartment building, and he was also the superintendent for that building as well. So not only did he have his day job, but he had his regular on the side job as well as a super. And I recall being early, 7, 8 years old. I was cleaning hallways, painting apartments, fixing things, learning how to fix things, becoming handy, those type of traits. Same thing, my mother would show me these things as well. She would bring, in the middle of a Saturday or a Sunday while we were working, she would bring us food. She would, do her part, So I was taught the roles, the feminine side. Yeah, my mom helped too. She did her part as well. She, everybody did what they had to do. But I worked since I was a kid, and I went from that to, yes, I did a paper route for probably a year, and then I I started cutting grass. I mean, I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I was cutting grass. I mean, I was cutting grass at the apartments, So, yeah, work was always something that was in my life, and it's carried through today.
Yeah.
I mean, just constantly.
It's great they instilled that in you.
I think it's an important thing. There's no doubt that today we've lost that. There's no question about it. Parents today want to be their kids' friends. They want to, oh, Johnny, it's okay, or oh, Sally, you can be anything you want to be, versus 30, 40, 50 years ago where they're like, you want that bike? Earn it.
Right. And I have seen by talking to other people that this concern for your child's happiness today is so much different than when we were raised.
We were fucking miserable. I shouldn't say
our parents
miserable.
didn't care if we were happy, I have the feeling.
It was a very different society. The go sit in a corner, blah, blah, blah. No, you got your ass handed to you, right?
No talking back.
There was no in the house. You got grounded. You were in the house. No TV. You were in your room. Enjoy your four walls. Yes. Be glad you have a roof over your head. Okay? That was then. Today, it's, I'm going to take your phone, and I need you to think about what you did, and, excuse me? Where's the backhand? I get it today. You can't, you can't beat your children, and you shouldn't beat your children. However, make no mistake, there are some kids out there that deserve a fucking ass kicking. They deserve to have their asses handed to them. And that's just the way it is.
You know what concerns me about this is the other superpowers of the world, how they raise their children. Can you imagine the Chinese parents and the Russian parents with their children as opposed to
Russia's laughing at us right now. Putin just said yesterday at a press conference, America is destroying themselves from the inside out. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. We are literally kicking our own ass.
The amount of infighting we have in this country over so many issues.
And people love to blame other people. Oh, divisive this and divisive that and blah, blah, blah. You know what? Again, you're going back to that moral compass. Some of these things that happen here in the States aren't allowed in Russia. There's absolutely no way. TikTok in China, Instagram in China is vastly, have you ever been there?
No.
It's vastly different in China than it is in America. They allow certain things in America specifically to, and I don't know where I read this, but they allow certain content that specifically agitates the mindset. They show certain things that make you vulnerable, that make you desensitized to certain things, to violence, to nudity, to sexual content, to all those type of things. That stuff is not allowed in China. Here, it's the same company, but they don't allow it. We were just in Europe just a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things we noticed was just how different people are. Okay, so we were in France, and with France, Germany, and Switzerland. And all three of them, while different, they have the same taste as society. The French, there's no staying inside. You're not inside. You are outside. You live outside. The cafes are open till 3 a.m. and they're packed. They don't eat dinner till 8, 9 o'clock at night. Right? They enjoy life. There are people. We were sitting at a table in Germany. Amazing. We're sitting at a table in Germany, and there were 4 young men having dinner, just enjoying life. 2 of them were married, 2 of them were single. They are not stuck to their phones. They have them, but you'll see them, a lot of them in their back pockets. And they use them when they need them. When they sit at a cafe, nobody has their phone in their hand, and it's just sitting there.
And doom scrolling like here.
Absolutely not. They got their phone, they throw it on the table, and guess what? And they're back to their coffee, they're back to their cake, they're back to their dessert or whatever it is. It is such a vastly different mindset. Switzerland, people are out riding bikes. They are walking. The kids are playing. They're all doing. It is, when I say the Western world is now, I love America. I'm very patriotic. But when I tell you the Western civilization is absolute shit in comparison to Europe, I'm not kidding. I defy any of you to go to Europe and tell me that their country sucks. It doesn't. Yes, we have freedoms. Yes, we have certain things we can do. We also have our laws, and so do they. but the quality of life is so vastly different.
Yes.
And women seem much happier. They seem much more polite. They just seem just freer, less, they have less concerns. The men, same thing. And talking about distinguished gentlemen, did we see anyone in Europe that looked like shit? No, we didn't. I thought I was on Wall Street. I saw young men, middle-aged, older men. They all dressed in suits. They all had nice clothes on. I didn't see one pair of Crocs. Not one.
I'm glad we brought that full circle.
I'm bringing that full circle. I didn't see one. Not one man had a pair of slip-on sandals or slides. None. That shit doesn't exist in Europe, right? I'm sure they have them in their homes, but they wouldn't be caught dead out in public with them. Not dead out in public. You are in public in Europe. You represent your spouse. You represent yourself. You have standards. You don't look like a bum.
Yes.
Go into a supermarket today. Go into a Walmart. I mean, I know it's a big joke with Walmart, but go into any department store and tell me if anyone there really displays self-respect.
Right.
It doesn't exist. There are a few scattered here and there, but in general, no, they don't exist. We are, for all intents purposes, a society of bums.
Yes, and it saddens me because it when you dress up nicely, it elevates your spirit, you project better. It's just a wonderful ripple effect, and we need to get back to
what
it.
it does for your self-esteem to look, I know you guys know this. I know this, and I know women know this, okay? When you're at home and you're in your sweatpants and you're blah, 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 okay, fine, your mom, all great, dandy. But how many of you women go, I would love to dress up, and I would love to put on my heels and go out for a fancy night out? Yeah, you'd all love to, but do you actually put in the effort to do that? Same thing with guys. You guys are, we're bums. You guys are bums, right? You dress up in your khaki shorts and your sandals and your t-shirt, and you go out and you expect the world to just fall at your feet. Doesn't work that way. You have to earn that respect.
I hope we get back to the days of like the old Pan Am where people dressed up to ride a plane. And
you know what? We're going to help people do that.
I hope so.
We're going to teach people how to do that. We are going to. That's part of the Distinguished Gentleman podcast is not only do we get to sit here and bitch about society and talk about all the shit that's going wrong and have our opinions, but we're also going to offer them. You're going to offer them the feminine side of what does it mean to be a woman? What are the responsibilities? How do you dress as a woman? What makes you look good? You're going to ask me, what looks good on a woman? And I'm going to ask you, what looks good on a man? These type of things. Now, we know them, but our viewers don't. A lot of our viewers don't know that, right? And we have to provide that for them. And I think that's an important part, just a start. You got your foundation, right? You've got your moral compass, and then you have to start working on yourself.
Yes.
What do you bring to the table? Do you bring a slob? Do you bring a bum? Or do you bring a man?
right.
Do you bring a woman, a lady? If you're doing OF, if you're doing OnlyFans, guess what? Most men aren't going to want you. If you're a guy and you're sitting at home playing video games and you're 30 years old, guess what? No self-respecting woman is going to take you seriously. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And the biggest changes in life really can start with small corrections.
Absolutely. But they require effort.
Yes.
That's another thing. Responsibility. We're going to teach people responsibility and accountability.
Right.
That's something that today's society has really gotten away from is responsibility. You see these protests, responsibility of these protests for the war in Gaza, whether you support it or whether you don't. The responsibility is, you can protest, but there's accountability for your actions. You look at all these college campuses, they are a disaster. Physically, they've spray painted on the walls and they've left the garbage everywhere, and they're just disrupting normal people's lives. Right? That's really what it is. I don't care about your opinions. You can protest all you want. You can chant and rave and scream all you want. But the moment you start interfering with other people's lives that aren't interested in your agenda.
That education is costly. That's really infringing upon people's pocketbooks and just...
And I know that's what they want.
So sad.
They want that, okay? But what our society has gotten away from is accountability. You get into my face and you start costing me time and money, I mean, I wear watches not to tell time. I've got my phone and I've got my wife and I've got all my friends. Anybody can tell me time. My watch doesn't tell me the time. My watch tells you that my time is valuable.
Right.
It tells you that I have important things to do. And then you start wasting people's time and money. At some point in time, the American public, the society is just going to get tired of it. And there's going to be accountability. And that accountability is going to come, hopefully not in violence, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did. We are creeping towards that precipice of people are just sick to death of it.
We are near the tipping point, it feels like.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been at the tipping point for many different things over 100 years. I mean, climate crisis, geez, if for those of you that are old enough to remember the climate crisis, the gas crisis of the 70s, you remember that, don't you? Of course you do. And absolutely. And the acid rain of the 80s. Good Lord, the planet was going to melt upon itself with the acid rain. And then the Asian bird flu. And then, I mean, if we believed every single apocalyptic, prediction that they had, we'd have been dead, 1,000 years ago. So I understand certain things are important and things need to change, but it cannot come at the cost of people that want to just live their lives and just, be happy with their families and their loved ones and their wife and their children and their parents and stuff like that. It just cannot happen. I think we're at that tipping point where you have one side that is, they're just sick to death of it. And they come from a generation, the Generation X, that just don't tolerate shit anymore. They just don't tolerate it. They are not going to put up with it. And we're seeing it more and more online every single day. People are getting their asses handed to them. They're getting their asses kicked because, why? They're fed up. You get some 20-year-old with purple hair that gets in someone's face that's 45, 50 years old, and he's screaming. Your purple hair has never had, he's never had 4 knuckles straight to the brain. And all of a sudden, they're like, what the hell just happened? My mom never did this to me. My daddy never beat me. Well, guess what? Some stranger that's 50 years old has said, I'm going to teach you a lesson. You better get out of my face. And all of a sudden, it's a wake-up call. Guess what they never do again? Guess what they never do again? They shut their mouth and they're like, oh, shit, that's a consequence. Those are the parents' fault. The parents didn't teach their children. Guess what? You do X and Y is going to happen. They've been teaching them, oh, you do X? It's okay. I understand your feelings and you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're okay, blah, blah, blah. Or the father isn't even there. Guess what? That shit's going to change. Yeah. I think it's going to change.
How were you raised? Were your parents strong disciplinarians?
Whew. Very strong. Very, very strong. They were, my dad was a little bit of a bully. I want to say a little bit of a bully. My mom took no shit, right? She loved her wooden spoon. I went through a collection of them. And it was a fresh purchase every once in a while. I was like, brand new spoon.
Are you an only child?
I am an only child. As you can tell, I'm kind of an only child. I never had a chance or the opportunity to share my toys or anything like that. But it's good and bad. I wish I had brothers and sisters. I don't. I've been married to I've been fortunate enough to be married into a large family. So I understand what brothers and sisters mean. I was taught that early. I was married early on, so I understand what that's about. But my parents were rough. They were no nonsense, European, like I mentioned before, hardworking, no bullshit. And to have a spoon cracked over me or a backhand or a belt was not unusual.
I know these things well of myself.
Those days are gone. Those days are gone. And part of the problem with society, nobody gets their asses handed to them anymore. So I grew up, it was, for all intents purposes, it was a good life. I wouldn't change it for anything, to be honest. I learned incredible values that make me the person I am today. I understand respect. I understand.
Was the way you parented similar or modified in some way?
It was, and I'm very, very proud of the way that I parented. To be honest, most children would say, "Oh, I had a rough childhood." You know, even I say it. I'm sure everyone here says the same thing. You know, I had a rough childhood. You know, but that rough childhood made you the strong person that you are today, which is exactly what I'm glad. And the way I raised my child, I raised her with respect. When I say respect, her respect for an adult. There isn't a mutual, you know, I tell a lot of parents that I talk to and they have problems with their kids and they say, "Oh, I don't know what to do." And, you know, Johnny or Sally or blah, 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 whatever. It's just nothing but a problem. And I tell them, you know, you want to be their friend? This isn't a democracy. Being a parent is a dictatorship. It's my opinion. And rules are to be followed. You break those rules, those are there are consequences. So I believe that when you are raised in that structure, you are, as a parent, you have a responsibility to raising a person. You're not raising your friend. You don't have a friend. If you think your child is your friend, guess what? You need to go out and get some friends because you are fucking up your child. You need to raise that child to understand consequences, responsibility, hard work, dedication, respect. Those are the things that make a great citizen. If you're going to open your legs, or if you're going to wind up screwing some girl and you're going to have a child, you have a responsibility as a parent. Your day kind of ends the moment you have a child. It's no longer about you. You are now responsible for another human being, okay? And that human being, depending on what transpires, you have that responsibility to create a respectable person for society. Anybody can create a kid. Anybody can have a kid. Anybody can have a child. That's not the hard part. The hard part is taking that child and teaching them. Because where do they learn things from? They learn things from the outside, and either you're going to be the mass influence, or you're going to let society raise your child.
Right. And I like how Dr. Peterson conveys it, the sentiment that you are raising your child so you like them. And everybody else will like them too.
Absolutely.
And you have to be firm, to get that result.
You don't want a child you don't want an asshole as a child.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, how many people allow horrible people in their lives? No, most people don't. Most people don't want shitty people in their lives, right? So you are creating those people, and you are creating the good ones as well. So if you have a shitty child, if your child is 20, 30 years old and they are just horrible, they're not a hard worker, they have no respect for people, people don't like them, they're always into arguments, guess what? It's your fault. It's the parents' fault. You raised them, or maybe you didn't and you let someone else, but you fucked up. I raised my child to be responsible. I can put my child in a line of 100 other kids, same age, right? And every single time I will be proud of that child. Not, every parent is proud of their child. Most parents are proud of their child. Oh, he's this and he's that, blah, blah, blah. But can you honestly and objectively look at your child and say, that's a good person? I really admire what he's done. He may have taken the hard road, but he did the right thing. Most people can't do that today. Most people love their children to death. But what they can't do is sit back and really go, is that a good person? Is that someone that if I were their age, would I want that person? Would I look up to that person? Would I take advice from that person? Do I respect that person? Most parents can't do that today. Most parents can't do that. And that's a shame, because that just shows the person that you are, that you weren't strong enough to raise and took the responsibility of that child to say, look, I'm going to turn you into something amazing. You're my child and you represent me. Right. That's important. That's important to know.
And we can only hope that when they go on to have children, that they can see now I get it. I see why you were firm with me. I see why you were disciplining me. And I see, the love you actually had in your heart for me when they become parents.
Absolutely. When I was 20 years old, I thought my parents were dicks. I thought they were terrible. Just so hard. And none of the other kids were, They didn't have to work on a Sunday. They didn't have to clean hallways until 1 o'clock on a Saturday, or paint and open an apartment or cut grass or anything. Oh, my parents are the fucking worst, right? Here I am today, 50 plus years old, and I sit back and I go, man, did they teach me the right thing? Oh God, I am so grateful for the lessons that they gave me. I'm so grateful that while they could have gotten divorced, they didn't. I'm so grateful that they put themselves aside to raise me. And I took that same approach with my wife. I were there times where I was like, bitch, we're done. Absolutely. No question about it. And I think every marriage does. But you have to really look at it and say, why? Is it personal? Is it really, does it really benefit me? Does it benefit our child? What's the best thing to do? That's what a distinguished gentleman does. That's what a man does. A man looks at it and he says, I need to make the best decision for my family.
Right.
That's important. So yeah, it was an interesting childhood.
So I have heard you have had many successful businesses along the way. What brought you here to this point?
So that hard work that we talked about, that was a very big, huge influence on my life. And ever since I was, I don't think I've really worked for anyone since I was maybe 19, 20, something like that. Maybe 20 or so. I always worked jobs as a young kid, whether it was cutting grass, whether it was washing windows, paper route, whatever it was. But as I grew older, I worked for a couple of different places. And the people that I worked for, I really respected them, and part of that was I was taught by my parents, like, hey, look, you've got people that are going to pay you. You need to respect them. You need to do what they say, right? And while it may not be the greatest thing in the world, but you just shut up and do it, right? Just get it done. And as I started to grow older, I realized that many of these jobs that these people did, I had the capability of doing them myself. Why should I work for someone else? I work just as hard as they do, maybe even more, so that I've got. And I realized that as I grew up, I was taught all these different little trades, how to be handy, how to be frugal, how to make it happen. I mean, that was a rule in our house, was just do it, make it happen. No fucking excuses, just do it. And that became my real drive in my businesses. So I started off with a landscaping business, and I said, okay, well, I was a landscaper when I was a kid. I could do this, and I know how to go door to door, and I know how to beg for jobs, and I know how to fix a lawnmower when it breaks, and I know how to cut grass, and I know how to collect money, and I have my bank account, and I know how banks work and how money works, and spending and not spending. So I started with that, and I did that for just maybe a couple of years, and I realized, okay, I've got a knack for supporting myself without having someone to give me a paycheck. And that just grew. And then, from there, I sold that. I actually sold the customer list. I think I was maybe 19 or 20 years old, and I actually sold a customer list. And I thought, wow, this is the coolest thing ever, right? I should get into something bigger and something more profitable. That's, maybe not quite as much work, maybe not outside work. So I started another company, an electronics company, and I watched other places like Best Buy and at that time it was Silo and a couple other, Highland superstores, and I would go in there and I'd watch the salesmen and I'd listen to people and I said, well, all I need is the product. I mean, I could do this all day long, right? And why should they be making $300 on an item when I can make $300 on an item? And I had vision because I was handy. I said, okay, I can build a shelf to display this stuff real nice, and their stuff looks good. I can make my stuff look better. Went that route, and I did that for years and years and years. And I owned an electronics company and was very profitable. Worked long hours. There comes that hard work. There's no such thing as an 8-hour day. That doesn't exist. For those of you that think an 8-hour day is long, good fucking luck. That's not a long day. A long day is a 12, 13, 14-hour day. Try and do that for 2 weeks at a time. Right. And then take an afternoon off. Just an afternoon. and then get right back to it. That's how you become successful. So I did that, and then I had other businesses, and I applied the same principles to those businesses, and it's been very successful for me. Very, very successful. I've made millions of dollars doing the businesses that I've had over the years. Okay.
That's great.
So that's the distinguished gentleman. So we hope to have lots of these podcasts. We hope to have lots of video clips and offer lots of different things to the public, and we will, and you guys will learn a lot. So I'm the distinguished gentleman. It's my co-host Seven, and we will bring you lots of content and hopefully transform you into an amazing woman or a distinguished gentleman. Until next time, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and share, and we'll see you next time. And if you don't like it, get the fuck out.